Good morning, Mavs fans. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson and Josh Bowe. You're joining us in the wee hours. It's about 12:15 on Saturday morning, November 23rd. I'm joined as always by Josh Bowe. Josh, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I know we like to talk about these late games and being tired, but I will watch these types of games at late at night 10 out of 10 times over, you know, the Spurs without Wembanyama or the Pelicans missing 8 of their best players or whatever. Like, I will stay up and watch these games because these games are so much more fun, and I feel like we have stuff to talk about. Like, that was truly one of the most impressive wins they've had in years in the regular season.
I
Good
was
win.
having a great time. The Dallas Mavericks defeated the Nuggets on the road without Luka Doncic, 123 to 120. Since we last spoke to you guys on Tuesday, Luka Doncic has been ruled out for at least a week with a right wrist strain. Don't know what that means. Don't really feel like looking into it. Just going to basically say over the grind of the regular season, Luka missing 3 games to get whatever is wrong with him right is fine by me, particularly during this stretch of games where the schedule on paper appears a little softer than normal. The Mavericks notched their 4th straight win to improve to 9-7 with a string of performances from less than likely sources with Luka Doncic out. I mean, it's kind of hard to know where to start with this. Well, no, there's one guy in particular that you want to start with, and Naji Marshall, who had a career high. I want to say he had 26 points, something like 10 of 14 or 10 of 15 from the floor. Was really just his 3-point shot went down 3 times. I think it was an incredible performance from the, you want to call them like unsung heroes or any nonsense like that. We talk about them all the time, but from guys who we don't necessarily expect to carry the load. Where should we start? Where do you think?
Yeah, we can either start with Najee. We could start with their starting front court, but you already mentioned Najee, so we got to talk about it. Led the team in scoring. Team high 26 points, like you said, made 3 3-pointers. Fun fact, Kirk, you've been tracking his 2-pointers versus 3-pointers most of this season. He had 4 made 3-pointers this season coming into tonight. He made 3. So that just goes to show. And the first one he made tonight was a desperation shot clock is expiring, one-footed running
Grenade.
Yeah.
Somebody threw the ball to him. It was like on a long rebound, I think, that didn't graze the rim, and he just had to get a shot up.
Yeah. So, and that's how it is, right? One goes in, and now it's like, oh yeah, I can make them. And then he made a couple more. He made corner threes, which was actually important. The Mavericks haven't been making a lot of corner threes lately.
The Mavericks corner threes are so bad that I saw a tweet. I might go find it while you're talking. Go ahead.
Well, they made 7 of 11 tonight, and I think attempts and makes, that's a lot than they get in a normal game this season. Their percentages on corner, like, it's not just the volume though, but their percentages on corner threes have been bad. So that was huge.
So let me read this to you. This is incredible. PJ was shooting 6% on corner threes before tonight. Naji shooting 17%. Clay shooting 7% from the left corner and just 31% overall from corners. The Mavericks have some positive regression coming their way.
Yeah, they certainly do. So, maybe Naji just needed to make that wild one. And now that he saw it, he'll start making more. But yeah, he was awesome. 11 to 15 from the floor. If he was 3 or 4 from 3, yeah, he was killing it in the paint again. His floaters, I love his floaters, man, because every time he shoots a floater, he does the Jordan Jumpman logo. Like, he always like does the splits in midair when he jumps to shoot his floaters, and it kind of looks a little ridiculous, but he makes them. Like, I thought that this game was kind of like, if there's been a lot of Mavs fans that have there's been some consternation about why did the Mavericks prioritize Naji Marshall in free agency over retaining Derek Jones Jr.? Because their contracts were pretty similar, so they could have had both theoretically, or not both, but they could have had Derek Jones Jr. They pretty much decided they wanted Naji Marshall.
Yep.
This is why, right? Like a guy that can take the ball and not necessarily, run offense. I don't think he was like running a ton of pick and rolls, and he wasn't necessarily first option stuff, but just guys that can do stuff. That's kind of the vision of this roster. More guys that can do stuff. That's been the vision of Nico Harrison since Cuban finally gave him the reins. Less specialist, one way, low cost players that Luka has to do everything else, and more guys that could just do stuff, that can dribble, that can attack a closeout, that can score in the paint. And Naji was a big representation of that tonight. So was PJ Washington. And I just thought, I could go deeper into this point, but like, I thought tonight represented like the vision of what I think we had for this team. And I think what the front office has for this team in terms of like the defensive edge is still there. And now I know the Nuggets scored 120 points. They had 50 plus points in the paint, but I thought the Mavericks defended okay. Russell Westbrook and Peyton Watson combined to make 5 3-pointers. That's 15 points. And, maybe the Nuggets have like 12, like that's 12 more points than maybe the Nuggets would expect with how those guys are shooting threes coming into tonight. So, you kind of take that for what it is. I like the Mavericks activity level defensively for most of the night. I think they guarded the paint and the rim pretty well, considering how good and how unstoppable Jokic is. So that's the vision, is you retain that defensive edge from last season, but just turn the dial. Like the dial last season was cranked all the way to defense. They started Derek Jones Jr. They started a non-shooting center, whether it was Lively or Gafford, and PJ Washington, who couldn't make shots. That was 3 non-shooters with Kyrie and Luka, because they were like, we're just going to out-athlete. We're going to beat the hell out of you on defense. And that got them to the finals, but I think we saw the limitations. And it was clear this offseason, they were like, well, how can we just twist that dial so it's not all the way to offense, but just closer to offense while still having that defensive intensity? And I think we saw that tonight with what Naji Marshall did, what PJ Washington did, what Quentin Grimes did, and what the centers Gafford and Lively did.
Oh, yeah, man. And the funny part is when we jump into talking about Naji first, Naji was the sixth man tonight.
I know. Almost didn't get into the game, fast enough in that fourth quarter when things were melting down, which was kind of weird.
Man, that was something.
Glad we don't have to talk about line.
Well, this was, and we jumped ahead a little bit, and I think it's fine to leave with Naji because the way the game went, the Mavericks and the Nuggets played kind of a back and forth first quarter. Mavericks couldn't really take advantage of some sloppy Nuggets ball. Then the second quarter, they blew the game wide open, where all of a sudden, and it really felt this way. It felt like all of a sudden the Mavericks were up by 12, 16, then 20, then 24 points. And this was kind of a devastating first half from the Mavericks, where they were doing a lot of things well. They were frustrating Jokic when he was in. Guys like Marshall obviously scoring a fair amount of points. They were like, I think Spencer Dinwiddie he shot and hit a corner 3 that managed to rattle all the way around the rim and bouncing off the backboard anyways. Like there was just some incredible shot making going on in this game. Second half rolls around, and then the third quarter, it was just, look, it happened. It's over with. The Mavericks gave up a 20-point lead in the third quarter. Like the entire third quarter. Kid called a timeout at one point, didn't make a difference. It was so frustrating to me watching this one in the sense that they opened up the second half with 2 great actual fucking plays, like real plays. And then they just went away from everything. Like I get so tired of watching this offense stop doing things that work. It's nuts.
That's why, and that's why when everyone's like, "Wow, look what they look like without Luka." Well, you need Luka during the. Turns out you need your All NBA offensive superstar during moments where your team kind of is like, well, "What do we do?" That's right. Because that's kind of what they look like, right? In that third quarter, and Kyrie looked gassed. he did not have it in the second half,
Nope.
which led to the second half swoon. Man, I think he only had 2 points in the second half.
Kyrie played
4.
He played a good floor game because he advanced, and we'll circle back to that. Third quarter kind of rolls along, and it's very frustrating. But the Mavericks still ended up with a pretty good lead going into the final quarter. I'm pretty sure that was the case. Let me just go check to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass.
No, they had like a
the 6-point lead. It wasn't a great lead, but it was enough. They felt like they'd stabilized things. Only the problem was Denver just kept coming. And all, Jaden Hardy made a 3, like one of the few, he had probably one of his worst games in 3 or 4, which is, it happens. Westbrook went on a 3-point shooting barrage. I think he hit 4 all in the second half.
And they were all like purposeful game plan. Like,
the Mavericks are fine.
Let them do that.
Yeah, let him shoot it. They were doing the Luke Cornett, contest from 25 feet. So it's so disrespectful, but I laugh every time it happens. But the Nuggets rally all the way back. Derek Lively commits his 5th foul with at the 7-minute mark, and Lively we should talk about Lively more probably in the second half of the podcast. But Lively had a very kind of his fouling is he's making bad decisions. And the 5th foul was really, really maddening where, the Mavericks are up 5. You figure he's going to go out of the game. Gafford just has a much harder time with Jokic. I mean, they both do. He's an MVP. It's not really, a slight that they're not. But the friggin' Nuggets take a 2-point lead with about 5 minutes left, and it feels like the game is slipping away. All of a sudden, they have a 5-point lead. Not all of a sudden, the Mavericks just can't score over a period of minutes. At the 3-minute mark, the score is 113-108. It feels like everything's falling apart. And then what proceeds to happen is a PJ Washington personal 9-0 run, which was just, we should really focus on PJ here when I'm done sort of recapping the game. But PJ was absolutely magnificent for a series of this game. He finished, I think, with 21 points and 12 rebounds. And he won the Mavericks the game. The Nuggets finally take a timeout, about under a minute left. Jokic scores immediately because Jason Kidd and everybody I just think that this was not Kidd's finest game, quite simply. But the Mavericks managed to keep the lead because they come back down. And who scored that last basket? Oh, it's Naji Marshall with a really great driving layup with about 18 seconds left from the left side of the floor, kind of froze Jokic in place with a little ball fake underneath the basket. But then Jokic and fuck it. This is a fan podcast. Jokic proceeds to continually get away with outright murder for the last minute and a half of the game. Effectively throws Derek Lively to the ground following a pair of Westbrook intentional foul free throws. Tosses out a pass to somebody. Was it Peyton Watson? Who was it? It was an incredible shot is what it was. No, it's Jamal Murray. Sorry. Makes it Mavs up by 1 with a minute left, but the Kyrie Irving sinks a couple of free throws. And they just essentially it becomes a free throw shooting contest in which the Mavericks win. Really exciting end of the game, just kind of taxing. What I've talked for 2 minutes straight. What should PJ? Okay, do you want to do PJ now, or should we do it? Let's do it now, and then we'll cut to a break because I got to do with the ad read and stuff.
Yeah. The PJ stuff was great. The thing that I really liked about what they did with PJ was it was very purposeful the way they deployed him tonight, and it's kind of the stuff that we kind of talk about. They should do this more with him because sometimes I feel like they get away from PJ in a way that's no, this guy is pretty talented. He was a 12th overall pick from Kentucky. He's got some pedigree. He was a lottery pick from Kentucky that scored pretty well. He's a talented player. And sometimes I feel like he can get a little lost in the shuffle in terms of how they use him. And he's not huge, but he's a legit, he's listed 6'6". I swear he feels a little taller than that. He's got a good wingspan. He's athletic as all get out. He's comfortable in the mid-range and in the post. I think, he's not out of sorts there. And I thought the Mavericks were very deliberate in the start of the game, and then obviously at the end of the game. Like, the Nuggets don't have Aaron Gordon. I can't remember what he's out with right now, but he's been out calf strain. So he's been out for a while. Like, when Aaron Gordon's out, the Nuggets aren't a big team.
Nope.
Because it's Jokic and then guards and some forwards, like small forwards. Like, they don't have a backup big like DeAndre. This was how bad it got. They played DeAndre Jordan because they didn't know what to do.
They tried. They kept trying stuff, and none of it stuck.
Yeah, they don't have size. I think that's why that rookie that tore his Achilles, I think, in the summer. I think they were hoping on him to give him some minutes. I can't remember what his name is, but they were counting on him. Like, and that's been a problem for most of the Jokic era, is they haven't really had a backup center. Like, their backup center has been Aaron Gordon, and he's out. So I thought it was pretty deliberate. Like, the Mavericks were like, none of these guys are as big as PJ Washington, size, strength, and PJ took it to the hole and posted up. They ran him off screens to get him touches on the block. And he drove. They got him against Jamal Murray late in the game, and he just drove. Like, I mean, Murray is not a good defender, and it's like he went through him like Murray was a ghost. Like, it was kind of effortless. Like, he kind of big boyed him, a little bit. So, like, I love that, because I think Washington, especially if Washington's shot is going to be just like, if his shot is gone, like, I don't know what happened to his 3-pointer, but it's just whatever 3-pointer he had the first 3 or 4 years of his career, it's just not there. But he still has this touch. Like, he's not useless as a scorer if he can't hit threes. I think he's actually more well-rounded. Like, I don't think even when he was playing well in Charlotte as a scorer, I don't think it was all about his 3-pointer. I think he's pretty well-rounded in the mid-range and the paint, and I just love that the Mavericks had a very decisive game plan with that. Like, that was deliberate, and it was fun to watch Washington pay that off, and it was fun to watch them do that. And then, the other side of it, he's playing defense like a madman still. He's got 13 rebounds. He's got 3 steals. Like, he's playing.
He's at 30 rebounds in the past 2 games. Is it?
What, 17 and 13? He had 17 the game before.
Was that against the Thunder? My brain.
Yeah, 17 against the Thunder. So 17, 6, and 13 in the last
36 rebounds is pretty good in 3-game span. We'll take it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he's been incredible. You could argue he's probably been the second most important Maverick this season.
I think that's the case. I mean, if you'll remember, we were talking about his defense early in the season before he hurt his knee, when his offense was simply not there.
Yeah,
like, he was putrid, and now he looks like just a very thorough player, well-rounded.
I mean, yeah, he's on pace for all defense. One of the teams. I don't know if it's first or second, but if he keeps this up, he will be on one of those teams.
Yeah, no, it's really something. Okay, guys, we're at a little bit past the halfway point that we try to hit, but this was a really fun game, so we'll talk about more things. I want to take a second to talk to you guys again about our brand new sponsor, Body Spec. A couple weeks ago, they reached out to Josh and I went and got a scan a couple days ago, and just to tell you a little about what it is. Body Spec provides what's called a DEXA scan, which is a full body composition scan. It helps you understand what's going on with your body, whether you're an athlete, a person with a desk job like Josh and I, or a person who's really considering, restarting a fitness journey, anything like that. A DEXA scan is a great way to learn about where you are with your body. If you'll head to the show notes and click the Body Spec link, you can do that here on YouTube Live while we're here. If you could if you're listening on the audio stream, please head down to your show notes and do this. Last game, we had a lot of people go and click through, which I was very appreciative of. Consider signing up and actually getting a body scan. They have locations all over the DFW area. I was pretty surprised at that. And if you use the code PODMAVS45 at checkout, you'll get $15 off what's already a very affordable scan. With the holidays right around the corner, this is a great gift idea on top of being an interesting way to kick off any potential New Year's resolutions. Body Spec's competitors charge as much as $150 for a scan like this. So you'll be getting real usable information at a great price. Again, visit the bodyspec.com link and in the show notes and use the code PODMAVS 45. Excuse me. I can't. You guys will make fun of me for this, but it's worth noting that I actually gave out the wrong promo code last show, which is just remarkably impressive. I'm a details guy, and I just botched the promo code, so it's PodMavs 45. Unless I can't read. Yes, PodMavs 45 in all caps. That's the important part there. Josh is I'm bullying him into getting one very soon as well, and then we will be able to tell you a little bit more about it. Look, guys, we've not had an actual sponsor on this show outside of the ads that we come in here, and part of that is because I didn't want to partner with something that I actually wouldn't use myself. And this is a really, really good product. I am looking forward to it. As I told Josh the other day, one element, I'm in pretty good shape, guys. I really am. Like, I can run a sub 6 mile. But one of the things that told me about a certain kind of body fat that I have too much of, called visceral fat, like, has sort of shook me.
Does it have to be called visceral?
I know, like, just such a bleak fucking name for it. But anyway, we're going to talk more about that in the coming days and weeks. I would really appreciate it if you guys looked into this and did it. It would help us a lot. Of course, I still have the promo code spelled wrong in the banner on the show. It's PodMavs45. Let me just edit that again. PodMavs45. Jeez, I'm just a professional. And that will go a long way and maybe get you a discounted body scan. So yeah, and report back. You guys know I like to talk to all of you if you're considering this sort of thing. I'm happy to tell you about my experience. All right, so we're going to insert some show notes here. Again, if you haven't, some podcast additional ads, just consider listening to those. That's another thing that can help Josh and I, and we will be right back. One day I'm going to nail these sort of things because I actually do like talking about things. I like talking about this product.
Hey, one day I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to do it this weekend. So nice. I'll join you.
Yeah. Well, and then we'll be able to talk more about it and tell the show. All right. So what else should we be talking about? Because I don't want to talk about any of the bad stuff until the very end.
Yeah, that's fine. Then let's talk about the other thing that kind of won them the game in the final, or when they got down 5, besides PJ scoring, was Derek Lively's defense. We talked about his weird fouls the first half, and like, people are really mad about the whistle he's getting, and I get it. I don't necessarily disagree, especially with how the game was called second half of last season, which we've talked about seemingly on almost every podcast, how they're calling games tighter than they were post All-Star break last season. And I'm sure some of this is kind of like a shell, because he got used to, you get used to that, and then you come out this season and they're back to you breathe on someone and it's a foul. Like, that sucks and you have to adjust. So he's definitely gotten hosed on some calls. Like you said, that 5th foul was like kind of nonsense. His 4th foul was even worse, where he just ran through Jamal Murray setting a pin down screen. He just runs through him. It wasn't like a very physical foul, but like, he fouled him. And I'm just like, what? And he had 3 foul. Like, why is that your 4th foul? That should be your 1st or your 2nd. Like, that cannot be your 4th foul in the 3rd quarter. He's just had some really, like I said this earlier in the Slack and on Twitter, he's had more rookie fouls this season than he did last season, which was his actual rookie season. I feel like I'm sure I'm being hyperbolic there, but that's how it feels. And then in the final 3 minutes, he turned into the freaking Terminator rim protecting stud that he was for most of last season and in the playoffs. Like, 2 monster blocks.
He took that horrible fall, and then he played the best basketball, like connected looking basketball that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, that looked like the Lively we expect, which we have very high expectations because we believe in him as a player so much. But yeah, totally changed the game in the last 3 minutes, shut down the paint, ridiculous help side, weak side protection on those blocks. Very clean blocks too. No doubters. Really helped kind of shut off the Nuggets water there in the final 3 minutes. Like, did everything he should. Also was able to finish the game. Didn't foul in the final 3 minutes when he had 5 fouls. Like,
I feel like they just swallowed their whistles. like
Yeah,
between both teams, which is fine. Yeah,
let's be honest, that's what the Mavericks want, right? I mean, that's how they want to play defense, right? If they swallow the whistle, they've got big badasses that want to beat the hell out of you in the paint. So that's gonna favor how they want to play. So yeah, I thought Lively was awesome down the stretch. And I got some while you were doing your ad read. This isn't up to date after this game. Actually, let me refresh it and see if it is. But I was looking at this data earlier today, and Cleaning the Glass has some good lineup data. And it's early, and per 100 possession data, when you haven't even played 20 games of a season is very, iffy. So take all of this with a grain of salt. Like a bad game can like really throw off per 100 possession data. Like you can go from a plus 10 net rating to a plus 2 in one game right now. Well, maybe not now, but we're still that early in the season that there's still swings. But having said all that, entering this game, Lively and PJ Washington shared the floor for 252 possessions, about 127 minutes. They are a plus 10.3 per 100 possessions in those 252 possessions. The defensive rating, 100.4 points per 100 possessions.
Jeez.
For reference, the Oklahoma City Thunder have the best defense in the NBA, and they're at 103 per 100 possessions. So that duo is absolutely kicking the shit out of other teams right now defensively. The offense isn't great. That net rate, that plus 10 is basically because the defense is so awesome. But the three most played lineups of the Lively and PJ have great offensive numbers. And those are the ones that have Clay, which is like not a shocking, not a surprise, because PJ's not hitting threes and Lively's not a shooter. You need Clay shooting to make that lineup work. And I know people are going to be really pissed off about Clay, and we can maybe lead into Clay. 0 for 8, obviously not good, needs to make shots, but his floor gravity matters. Now he's stretching the limits of that floor gravity when he misses all of his shots. But I think that's the secret ingredient to why the Clay PJ lineups have worked. Like, the Mavericks are allowed to be that good defensively with those two because Clay's shooting threat, opens things up, and it just does. And even when he's missing shots, it opens things up. Now he's going to have to make shots. Like if he keeps missing shots, teams are going to shift maybe a little bit how they guard, but yeah, that's how it works. That's
a guy like that doesn't ever really lose.
His reputation is
it's reputational, because it's like a bad shooter becoming a good shooter still doesn't get the attention. So it's like a good shooter becoming a slightly less good shooter. It's I'm not super concerned about it. I mean, it is annoying, but the fact, like when I back up and I say, okay, the Dallas Mavericks won without Luka Doncic. Kyrie Irving had a 51% true shooting percentage, i.e. he shot the ball horribly for people that don't know how to calculate true shooting percentage. And then Clay was 0 for 8. Like, this is great, man. And El Sporco is talks about Westbrook's noting Westbrook hitting 4 threes. Like, there was a lot of stuff in this game that was weird. And I that the Mavericks came away with the win is just, I think it's going to be one we look back at and go, that was where some things really started to come together.
I think so. If I told you before this game that Russell Westbrook would hit 4 3-pointers and Kyrie would hit 1, I think we would both say the Mavericks lost by 20, or like this was a blowout loss. Instead, they went in Denver with Jokic looking like the MVP. It's just, it's a great win. I'm seeing some quotes coming in from postgame. Apparently, the PJ Washington kind of let it be known that there was a team meeting after that Utah Jazz loss, which is great. Like, that was an embarrassing loss. They needed to look in the mirror after that game. That's what we said. We were like, pretty
fucking important.
Yeah,
and pretty important. Not only that they had the team meeting, but that they had the team meeting and it didn't get leaked. Like for anybody that doesn't know what I'm alluding to, the Sixers had a team meeting and we knew what happened like during the meeting. Like there was a plant in the room coming out. So it's really something to indicate that they understood the problem. They acknowledged and started to figure out how to deal with it.
And they acknowledged that there was a problem. That's also important.
Mm-hmm.
No,
so there's some really good post-game quotes. Like Naji said, we want to go to Vegas, which is let's just say Mavs Moneyball staff is not super enthused about the idea of having
games,
of having to look at more games, but we'll deal with it as it comes. This was really something. Let me see here. So we Clay will figure it out. And even if he doesn't figure it out, you got to get the guy shots. 8 shots, I think, is fine. Who else? Like Grimes played a really great game.
Grimes was great. Yeah.
Just another stocking stuffer of a basketball game from him. Lots of different statistical contributions. Gafford, who we didn't really talk about, had an interesting game. 27 minutes, 13 points, 6 boards, 3 steals, which is something.
He
guarded
his job.
Yeah.
Right.
You're not stopping Jokic. You go look at Jokic's stat line, and you're like, all right, the Mavericks just don't do anything to him. Nobody does anything to him. Yeah. Jokic, I get our guy Matthew, who has written for the site for a long time and does these playbacks with me. He and I were in kind of a Jokic argument today. Like Jokic is just like, we're going to look back at this and be like, all right, we were watching one of the best players of all time, and nobody wanted to talk about it because nobody knew how to contextualize the kind of frumpy looking fat guy, like just killing people. Jokic he didn't even play that well tonight, man. And he was still unreal. So I'm really proud of how Gafford played him, and how, even PJ and Naji played him a little bit. So there's lots of switches and stuff going on the floor. Really rough Jaden Hardy minutes. Hardy has the worst, he has a negative 16 in 13 minutes, which means he was out there when things went to hell. Feel bad for him. I thought he's had a pretty good stretch of basketball, only to kind of, I didn't say he walked it back, but it's just it's a bump in the road. I think you say on to the next. I'm not too worried about it. He's look, if Jaden Hardy is contributing at a high level for 82 games, you got a player far outplaying his salary. So it's, he's doing what he can. Do I have any more thoughts about the game itself? Because I'm sure there's other stuff that I'm just not thinking of, but I'm tired.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm trying to think. We've already talked about a half hour, so not too long. I guess the only thing I would want to ask, because I think we've kind of hit on why they won, why they played well, who played the best. Do you there's people, obviously this is more like online community, and even in our Slack, Matthew brought it up in our Slack. Like the Quentin Grimes, when Luka comes back, Grimes is going to hit the bench. I don't think Clay is coming off the bench. There's a movement, obviously, of the online fans that are thinking start Grimes, Clay off the bench. But I don't see it. At least in the regular season, I don't see it happening because they're doing all right. I don't know. They would have to lose a bunch of games. They'd have to lose 9 of 10 or something, I think, to make it that drastic of a switch, because it can't be emphasized enough how much Clay hated coming off the bench for the Warriors last season. So I don't know why you'd want to rock that boat. And also, I talked about the numbers earlier with Washington and Lively together. You look at the numbers, Clay, Washington, and Lively are kicking ass also. So if this starting lineup is crushing it. So I don't really know why you'd want to change it, even with Clay kind of having up and down shooting performances. I don't know. What do you think? Because I just don't think that just rocks the boat too much. I don't think they need to rock the boat.
I think with the age of half of this roster, that figuring out what the ideal lineups and rotation is kind of a fool's errand. Is that too much? Because I think the moment Luka comes back, we're probably going to see Kyrie take a break for a game or two. Some of these other guys, Clay might need a game. I don't know. I think they're going to continue to try different stuff. I mean, this schedule stretch outside, there's a New York game, but this schedule stretch up until Christmas is as soft as it's Los Angeles Lakers soft. I mean, they play They play a goofy Miami team Sunday. They play Atlanta, New York, Utah, Portland, Memphis, Washington, Toronto, Clippers, Portland, Minnesota. Like, not to be ridiculous, but if you're like a mega optimist, there's not a game in there where you go, that's a Mavericks loss. There's just not.
No. And
Which
the Knicks
is
aren't
crazy.
even playing great.
Yeah. I mean, you get
Yeah.
you have a road back-to-back where you play in Utah and Portland, who are two of the worst teams in the league. You have Memphis after that, who is obviously a talented team, but my God, they have pissed somebody off and with the injury bug they keep having.
Yep.
So there's just a lot of opportunities to try things while pushing up their kind of statistical markers. So I'm very interested in what the days and weeks ahead are going to see for us. And that doesn't, obviously, as I was reading that out, there's this massive gap in the schedule. We had one of our writers pop in and be like, why are there no games scheduled between Saturday, December 7th and Thursday, December 19th? It's because of the potential cup games. So obviously they could play some tougher games in there if the Mavericks make the cup, but then they also could play one and go home.
Right.
So, exactly. The point differential stuff with the Mavericks is also going to make a difference. I'm not really paying too much attention to the NBA Cup. We had a really good breakdown from Tyler Edsel that's up on MavsMoneyball.com if you're curious as to how things are working. This was a big win in that regard, but I just don't really think about the NBA Cup. I think about the NBA Championship. So
that's fair.
We'll see.
I don't think I got anything else. I feel like
no. All right, 1 a.m. I'm going to stay up like a psychopath, and I'll do a second show. I have a 8:45 call time for a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. But I mean, if anybody wants to talk for another half hour, 45 minutes or so, I can do so. So I'm going to kick us on over to Mavs Party because we've not had one of those in a couple of days, or at least it's been a week, just because everything's been ridiculous in my world. So let's kick on over to that. Josh, thanks so much. We will talk with you guys soon, and please hang out and go Mavs. Late Night Mavs fans, this is Kirk Henderson, and I am one of the showrunners here at Pod Maverick. You are joining us for Mavs Party. It is our fan-centric show where you can join me and talk a little basketball as we celebrate the Dallas Mavericks defeating who the heck did we play tonight? Denver Nuggets 123-120, probably one of the more exciting and I would say satisfying games of the year as the Mavericks built a 24-point lead, gave the lead back, won the game anyways. I felt all the things in that game, in the sense of there were times where I was really upset. There were times where I was really happy. And there were times where it's just like laughing at the ridiculousness of a basketball game. So we got Brian waiting already, but for those of you who are unfamiliar, in the YouTube comments, I have pinned a post that said, come join the Mavs Party, and a link to StreamYard.com. That is an easy-to-join app, which you can join from your computer. You can join from your phone. You can show your face if you want to. You can come ask questions. You can come yell at me. Doesn't really matter. We're going to have fun. We like talking basketball. Brian, thanks for getting us started. What's going on, buddy?
Mavericks win. That's what's going on, man. You know what's going on. Feeling really good. And I was not earlier. You heard me in the playback. In the third quarter, I was unraveling.
Yes.
Spiraling even. As most of us were. But they cleaned it up towards the end. PJ Washington, once again, late in a big game with one of our stars missing, was like an absolute hoss, dude. Like, look, man, this is why I was going to bat so hard ever since the Phoenix game, where he just couldn't hit anything.
He was
And
so
people
bad
were
in that game, man.
he was so bad offensively in that game, and people were just, I don't know if this is gonna work. Trade PJ. I'm like, dog, y'all, we don't win against the teams we need to get where we're trying to go if we don't have this dude. Like, it's not always gonna look like this offensively, although it's happened more often than not since he's come back. But defensively, everything was on display. The rebounding, everything's been on display. Like, since he's come back, he said coming back into the Thunder game, just how much of an emphasis the coaches put like towards him defensive rebounding and making sure that we're cleaning up the defensive boards and we're not leaving ourselves susceptible there to a bunch of offensive rebounds the way we were earlier in the season. And he's done such a good job there. Grimes has too, but PJ especially.
Mhm.
And dude, just to see him have this performance and go on that 9-0 run in the clutch and close that game out for us, basically, he and Naji. It was really, really cool and really, really fun. And there were a lot of fun performances tonight that thankfully allowed me to almost forget about Russell Westbrook hitting 4 threes.
The threes that he made were so upsetting. What did you say that he's not hit 4 threes in a game in over a year?
Yeah, I forget who it was that said it. I think it might have been David, but yeah, he hadn't had 3 made threes in a game since like March of 2023, I think.
My goodness.
And we got that game, and thank God we survived it, because I don't know if I would have if we had lost after he. And the funny part about the threes wasn't just that we left him open. He's obviously the guy you want shooting, right? It's that I saw PJ and I think Naji do this too. They tried to do the Cornet contest, and it's like, brother, you understand that works because he's 7 foot.
They did that to Christian Braun, I think. And I'm like, what are we doing, guys? Like, it's one thing to do that contest, and I think you really, and granted, this might just be my old head basketball brain, but you remember when KP used to just not challenge shooters? Like,
Yeah.
he would, and I'm like, I really do think it makes a difference. I really do.
Mhm.
And so it's, God, those Luke Cornett contests are great because they were doing the, like,
Well, yeah, and again, it works because he's 7 feet with super long arms. If you can do anything to disrupt line of sight from eye to basket, that helps. No matter how far away you are, that helps, right?
mhm,
But you're not doing that at 6'7", brother.
mm-mm. Like,
No matter how long
and
you
they
are.
look, and it's a great look. It's like Dumbledore calling Fox in the Order of the Phoenix, where it's like, and then he pieces out of the room, and I'm like, what are we? You're 20 feet away from that guy.
Yeah, it looks like you're doing
not-
jumping jacks. Listen to an old Richard Simmons workout tape, man. Come on.
I think what I'm enjoying most about the PJ attack mode thing that we have going on is teams are putting smaller guys on him, and he is punishing the smaller guy on repeat. And that is something that if you like, we keep talking about this. Kyrie Irving is 6'1.5", 6'2.5" on a tall day.
Mm-hmm.
Luka's, let's just say he's 6'7". Clay is 6'7". PJ 6'6" to 6'8", rangy arms. You got, and then you have Lively or Gafford. The Mavericks are a big team. So if you're putting a smaller guy on him and he's punishing, and eventually what that'll change is the scouting report is, okay, well, we're going to have to put a smaller guy on someone else because we need to move a bigger body over to PJ Washington. And how does that change your offense? Are you putting a 6'3" water bug on Klay Thompson instead? Are you going to do that with one of the greatest shooters of all time? How does that affect him? Like, there's just a lot of like cascading stuff. What PJ becoming? This is like a legitimate. He's playing like a very good offensive player, not a person who can just hit some shots. Like, just an all around offensive guy. So it really can change the way this offense is structured if his attack mode elements are. He had one, and it had to have been. I think it was the one when the Mavericks were down 5 in the final minutes, and it was from the left wing where he kind of gets the ball in like a weird like kick out to him, and he takes one dribble up past the the break and the 3-point line, and then just attack the rim straight on. Like those sorts of things are beautiful. And the Mavericks having one more guy that can do it off the dribble, I think has profound consequences in a positive way.
Well, what it is, it's the Aaron Gordon thing and like I don't mean to like stick and like only praise PJ, but like this stuff really matters. It matters to me. It's the Aaron Gordon thing where okay, we've got a dude that can guard up and down the lineup, just about every position, depending on the personnel. And then on the other end, if you put somebody that is too small on him, we're going to put him in the post and we're going to allow him to punish you. And if you put somebody that's too big on him, we're going to put him on the perimeter and we're going to let him run right by you and then get to the rack. And the fact that that vision that we had for him coming to the scene last year is now starting to be realized. Like if this were the PJ from last year and you're not getting like the OKC series level, okay, he'll give you a clutch corner three because he was good for that last year. But if he's not giving you that, you're not really sure where the offense is coming from. If we were getting that PJ, things look a lot different. He's so much more comfortable. He's so much more confident and aggressive. It really, really helped. And that's something so fundamental to what PJ's doing in the post when they're putting smaller wings and smaller guards on him, what Lively is starting to do with when they put a smaller play on his back, just turning and giving that little jump hook, the Dan Gafford put back and offensive rebound stuff. There's something so fundamental about like, hey, I have a size advantage against you, whether it be strength or height, and I just have the coordination and functional athleticism that is going to let me take advantage of it, and I'm going to turn that into points, and you're not going to be able to stop me. Not enough on average. Like there's something so fundamental to basketball about that this team has been lacking for a long time. That is so cool to see us be able to actually take advantage of size advantages we have, and not just have dudes out there kind of just flailing around and not really sure what to do with the ball when the star doesn't have it.
Yeah. Well, and I can see like what's fun, and I'm using that word kind of sarcastically, is it's so wonderful and odd and I don't want to tell anybody how to fan, but after like a great win, it doesn't have to be a just sort of an entire assessment of what the Mavericks need to be, or who they are, whether Doncic is getting 30% usage or whatnot. I want to say I'm worried about that, but when you're 9-7, so you're roughly almost like we're approaching the quarter mark of the season, and Luka hasn't looked his best. There's just a way there's still plenty of time for these guys to figure it out. And so what we talked about almost the entire offseason was that the Mavericks needed to play consistently above 500 basketball. So when they start the season 5-7 and we're quite rightfully screaming at the trees, like now you look at and we talked about this, like there's the schedule poised ahead, Luka, Doncic or not, I think this team can do some damage. Like I said 11-5 is sort of my goal for the rest of the year. And maybe that's not right. I can't remember the game count, but it's right up until Christmas, like 11-5, something like that. And if they're able to do that or outperform that would put them at roughly 6 games over 500, which would be better than they were last year. I'm pretty sure of that. And that's what you're looking for, is like some level of growth. You don't want the Mavericks to have to play like 65% basketball down the stretch where they win 2 out of every 3 games, because that's not doable. It's just not. I know that seems blasphemous to be somebody who's like, well, these Mavericks can win these games. And I'm like, there's just too many games, guys. When you play 4 games in a week, you're going to shit the bed sometimes. And it's a matter of how and what do you look like. So there's just a lot of positive things to build off of right now. And I'm not really worried about the Luka element of it, because I think if you were to go back through the games that Luka played, I think we got like 1.5 actual, like 6 total quarters of good Luka basketball that would be up to his standards. What do you think?
I agree. And so I was not long-term worried, but definitely short-term worried about the Luka situation prior to him verbally acknowledging, yeah, I'm kind of banged up right now, because as most of us who have like been with this team, rooting for this team since he's gotten here, he doesn't talk about injuries unless he's actually
Nope,
hurt.
won't say it.
He'll get on the court and he'll fake limp after he gets beat on the drive or something, and he'll do all that stuff when that's
But he
just like
doesn't. He doesn't do
attitude.
the Joel Embiid. He doesn't do
Yeah,
that.
but he doesn't bring it up and
Yeah.
mention it to the media. It doesn't get put like they'll put whatever on the injury report or whatever,
Yep.
but he doesn't let the word injury or banged up or hurt or anything like that come out of his mouth unless he's actually feeling something and it's
Right.
affecting how he's playing. And the way he was playing the first 6 games, really the whole first stretch, but definitely the first 6 games was so bad and so inexplicably bad that
Mhm.
that makes way more sense than anything else that we were coming up with as we were spiraling. Him getting this opportunity to rest now because of this wrist thing is a blessing in disguise for him and for this team, because I think that he is going to see how well this team is playing, how fast this team is playing without him out there. And he
The
is
fastness. That's actually the thing that I'm
it's
most
this
interested.
it's the speed, and it's not just the speed, because I'm not even just talking about like what they're doing in uh on the fast break and like in the full court. The
Right.
decisiveness with which they're acting in the half court, like these role players, like Quentin Grimes, like the shot he took late in the game, the little step back three or whatever. I know there were a lot of people who were not that happy with it. I didn't mind that shot at all because it didn't look like very many other people on the court wanted to shoot at the time. And the fact that he got the ball, he surveyed the court. Nobody was really open. He knew it was time for him to create something. And he just stepped back into a shot that he was comfortable with. And he made that decision in like 2 seconds. Like, these are the kinds of things, like empowering guys to be able to do that, which is something Kyrie is great at, where even though he couldn't put the ball in the basket really, he let these role guys feel empowered. That's how you get a game like this from Naji, a game like this to end the game from PJ, right? Like Luka's gonna see all of this, and he's not gonna want to like stand in the way of it. He's gonna
No,
want to
he
be a
doesn't
part of
want to
it.
fuck it up. Like that
That's not
was
the way he plays basketball.
it was either Kid or Kyrie in Tim McMahon's story earlier in the year where it's like I think it might have been Kid asking Luka before last season, just sort of sending him a text saying, "Hey, we need to play faster," and Luka just saying, "Okay."
Yeah.
And not fighting it, and it did, and they did play faster. And so
Mm-hmm.
let me just read you the game log of what you're talking about. This was a key sequence of the game. At 2:41, PJ Washington makes that driving layup I described. It made the score 113-110. Nuggets still up. At
Yes.
2 minutes and 13 seconds, Michael Porter Jr. missed a long pull-up jumper. Kind of late in the shot clock, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Derek Lively gets the rebound at the 2:10 mark, so 3 seconds later. 2 seconds after that, 2 seconds, PJ Washington scores off of a
Yep.
Kyrie assist. So it goes Lively, Kyrie, PJ in 2 seconds. I mean, it's probably more than that because I think they're probably wrong on when Lively got the rebound. But the ball moves faster than the player, regardless. So that's the sort of thing. And Luka knows this. Luka loves passing ahead, but I think he's going for the home run more than he does the connecting piece pass.
Yeah, what
Just
he needs to get better at is understanding it's okay to hit a single or a double. And it's not even about like trusting your teammates, but knowing that your teammates know what to do, right? In order to get you all the way back home. Like that particular play where Kyrie, beautiful hit ahead pass, right on the money to PJ. PJ, incredibly heads up play that I genuinely believe saved the game, because if we don't get an and one here and convert the free throw, I'm I don't like our chances nearly as much. He catches the ball, gets right
that's
under the
right.
basket, sees and feels the defender right behind him, catches and holds, wait till he feels the contact, then he goes up. And I'm like, dude, that's such an incredibly heady. Like, this is what we're talking about when we're mentioning like PJ he's not a Dorian level offensive player. Like, this is a
No.
dude that was at Kentucky when Kentucky was Kentucky, on the same team as Shea, and in the same year got drafted like 2 spots ahead of him.
Mhm.
Like, this is a real NBA player with real NBA pedigree who knows what he's doing out there. And so to see him make that play in that moment and be empowered to make that play
Mhm.
after, having like had a couple good plays the stretches right before that to get to that point. That's why I'm like, okay, yeah, we're still in this game. Things look bad literally a minute and a half ago, but we're still in this game. We've got a good chance to win it now.
Yep. This was really something. Well, we've been talking for a bit. I wonder, and there's nobody else that wants to come up tonight. I guess this is my fault for when I don't do these consistently enough. I just had my ass kicked. I feel like every night since daylight savings time. It's
yeah, okay. It's not just you because
No.
I've been kind of fucked up ever since daylight savings time started.
That's right.
Like my sleep schedule has been wonky.
Yeah, it's been terrible. Well, you got any other takes you wanna fire off?
Naji, keep shooting those floaters, dude. He's got to be 77, 78% in that floater range at this point.
I checked at halftime. He is at halftime. He was 6 of 7 from 2 at that point in the game, which made him 60 something. What was he? It was 53. He's shooting in the high 60s from 2-point range. That's not even floaters. This is just 2-point range.
Yep.
So it's pretty wild.
Yeah, no, he is. That dude is a really good, really smart basketball player. Look, man, I love Derrick Jones Jr. to death. This is the last time you're gonna hear me bring his name up next to or in response to anything that has to do with Naji. We are so past that now. We've got a good team, and this is a really good basketball player who is a really good, really well-fitting addition to what we're trying to do. Like I was all over it in the summer when they happened, but adding him and Grimes, replacing DJJ and Josh Green with him and Grimes being just like, what if Josh was all that athleticism he had was actually functional athleticism? And what if he was a shooter that you actually trusted to make shots in big moments and not just like with 6 feet of wide open space? Like adding those two and them being as good as they've been this early is so huge for this team. And it was looking shaky for Quinn early. I had faith he was going to bounce back, but now I'm glad that he didn't sign that whatever extension I'm certain they were offering him. That was probably something like 7-8 mil a year. He's probably going to end up getting it. He's probably going to end up getting more, and he's going to get it from us. And
maybe, yeah, and they'll figure. I sort of think, and granted, you got 60 games to go. I sort of think they will figure something out just because there's not the money on the market, and he can go find a deal, and the Mavs can match it. I mean, there's a lot of, there's a report. I don't know who it was from, but the Mavericks are like Kyrie Irving is not interested in leaving the Mavericks. Which
I think that was McMahon.
Which is a big duh to anybody that has followed Kyrie's career in the sense that he's as content as he probably has been and playing well in a system that works for him. And so it's like the Mavericks have some money things that they're going to have to figure out to stay away from the second apron. But I don't want to be an accountant, so I'm not going to think about it right now, and I'm going to let them figure it out. And I'm just very pleased that they got Marshall for what they did. I think they can probably find Grimes for an agreeable contract. It would be shocking if he somehow got less money than Josh Green, who it's like he does all the stuff we wanted Green to do.
He does all the stuff we wanted Josh to do. And you know what's fun? I do think we're going to get him for less than what we pay Josh. I think we're going to get him for somewhere between the $9 million a year that Naji got and like $12 million.
Right. That's what I think too.
Money.
Yep.
And that is a steal. That is a bargain considering what we had just signed Josh to and what we ended up moving him to Charlotte to get Clay.
Is this Maxi's last year? Does he have one more year? I think he has one more year.
I think he has. Yeah, he's not expiring until
no.
This is his second to last year.
You wonder if they maybe try to like essentially move him because the salary cap will go up, but it won't go up by any like marginal amount. I just said I didn't want to be an accountant, and here I am talking about this.
Because like this is kind of really the only part that's left. It's like, hey, there's one real, like, knowing that Exum is going to come back and hoping that he'll be something like what he was for us last year, just now in like an actual smaller scaled down role where he doesn't have to kill himself with minutes
Yep.
in December like he did last year. The only real hole kind of on this team is backup 4. And that's if you want to consider it that, because Naji can just like step in and play that role sometimes. But we and like to get that player to fill that position, we have Maxi's like 11 million, Omax is 2.8, and I think Spencer's making like 2. You got that stuff, a first, a second, and whatever else you can go like fish out on the market. Maybe you go back to the First National Bank of Sam Presti,
Right.
and go get a pick there. But that's what you've got to fill that role. And there are a bunch of guys littered around the league who can go for around that price or less.
Yeah.
That could do it. And this is like the last piece. And if they get that settled, I'm like, dude, I don't see any reason why the team can't win a title. If they're going to defend like this, and we know there's some positive.
I like the word this psyched. I like the word this psyched when it's like 4 games ago, half the chat we're like, our role player's terrible.
Hey, look, man, sometimes it's never been more over, and other times we're so back. And right now we are so back.
As I'm yawning, I am so back and still have like another hour of work before I can go to bed. If nobody else is going to talk, I think I'm going to close this one out a little bit early. Does that sound good?
Hey,
I appreciate you hanging out though, Brian.
Of course, brother, anytime.
All right, so before we go, I'm going to do one more ad read just because this is the way these sorts of things work. Earlier, I talked a little bit about Body Spec, which is a company that does what's called a DEXA scan. It's a full body composition scan to help you understand what's going on with your body. Whether you're an athlete, which I used to be, a parent with a desk job, which is absolutely me, or just a person considering getting back into shape, which apparently I fall into after getting my scan and finding out that I just have some markers that I absolutely need to work on. You should click on the show notes down there. It's down there in the podcast show notes, or down there in the comments I'm going to post. You can find the link really easily. There's a promo code PODMAVS45. If you put that at checkout, it will be very it'll help you get a deal on this scan. It's something that would help our show if you're at all interested in helping our show while also helping you. It could be an interesting gift this time of year, something to help you kick off your fitness journey. Body Spec's competitors charge as much as $150 for a scan like this. So you're going to be getting real usable information at a great price. And I am not just selling you this. I went and had one done. I'm looking forward to Josh getting one done so we can actually talk about it a little bit more. All right, guys, I'm going to close out the show. Thank you so much for hanging out. This has been a great time. Everyone have a good rest of your weekend. We will see you on Sunday. Go Mavs.